Jake Morrison floated in the pilot seat of his patrol ship, watching the stars through the wide window. He had been flying around the outer edge of the solar system for 3 months now. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. The Earth. Defense fleet needed eyes out here watching for anything strange. The radio crackled to life. Horizon, this is Control. Any movement out there? Jake pressed the talk button. Nothing new, Control. Just rocks and empty space. He stretched his arms and looked at his watch. Only 2 more hours until his shift ended. Then he could go home to his small apartment on Mars Station. Suddenly, his computer started beeping. Jake sat up straight and looked at the screen. Something was coming toward him, something big. The radar showed a ship that was 10 times larger than anything humans had ever built. Control, this is Horizon. I have contact with an unknown vessel. It's huge. The voice on the radio sounded worried. Copy that, Horizon. Hold your position. Do not approach. Jake watched as the alien ship slowed down and stopped about a mile away from him. It was beautiful and scary at the same time. The hull was smooth and silver, with lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. He had never seen anything like it. A new voice came through his radio. It spoke English, but with a strange accent. Human vessel, this is Senior Counselor Vextar of the Galactic Council. You will listen carefully. Jake's hands shook as he reached for the radio. This was it. First contact with aliens. He was making history. This is Commander Jake Morrison. Of the Earth Defense Fleet, we hear you. Your species is now under the protection of the Galactic Council. You will cease all weapons development immediately. You will stop all space exploration beyond your home system. You have 1 year to comply with these orders. Jake could not believe what he was hearing. Wait a minute, you can't just show up and tell us what to do. Earth is a free planet. The alien's voice became cold. Your freedom ended the moment we detected your radio signals. Every species in this galaxy follows council law. You are no different. Back on Earth, Lisa Brooks was in the middle of a meeting when her phone rang. She was the head of Earth's diplomatic team, and she had been preparing for this day her whole life. When the call came, she knew exactly what it meant. Lisa, get to the command center right now, said General Murphy. We have a situation. 20 minutes later, Lisa stood in the underground command center beneath Washington, D.C. Dozens of screens showed Jake's ship and the alien vessel. She could hear the conversation between Jake and the alien leader. So they want us to stop growing. As a species, Lisa said. They want to keep us small and weak. General Murphy nodded. That's what it sounds like. Every other species in the galaxy has accepted these limits. They're all stuck at the same level of technology. Dr. Ben Rodriguez walked into the room carrying a thick folder. He was the smartest person Lisa knew, and he looked worried. I've been studying their transmissions. The math is incredible. They've had faster-than-light travel for thousands of years. Their weapons could turn Earth into dust in minutes. But why do they care about us? Lisa asked. We're just one small planet. Ben opened his folder and pulled out a chart. Because we're different. Look at this timeline. It took the Galactic Council species an average of 50,000 years to develop spaceflight. Humans did it in less than 100 years. Lisa stared at the numbers. You're saying we learn too fast? I'm saying we learn at a rate that scares them. If we keep growing at this speed, we'll be more advanced than all of them combined in just a few hundred years. On the screen, they watched Jake's ship receive another transmission. This time, a different alien was speaking. The voice was deeper and more threatening. I am Counselor Crexdan. I will make this simple for your primitive mind to understand. Your species has 2 choices. Submit to our control or face complete destruction. You have 30 Earth days to decide. Jake's voice came through the speakers. And if we choose to fight? Then your planet will be removed from existence. We have done this before with species that refuse to cooperate. Your resistance will be brief and pointless. The alien ships began to move away from Jake's position. Within minutes, they had vanished into the darkness of space. Lisa turned to General Murphy. Call the president. Set up an emergency meeting with all world leaders. We need to make the biggest decision in human history. Ben was still looking at his charts. There's something else. I've been monitoring their ship since they arrived. Their technology is amazing, but their tactics are basic. They move in straight lines, use standard formations, and broadcast on open channels. What does that mean? Lisa asked. It means they haven't fought a real war in a very long time, maybe thousands of years. They're used to species that give up without a fight. General Murphy smiled for the first time all day. But humans don't give up easy. No, Lisa said, we don't. But we also don't win fights by being stupid. We need to be smart about this. She looked around the room at the faces of Earth's best military minds and scientists. Each person understood what was at stake. Humanity's future hung in the balance. Get me everything we know about the Galactic Council. I want to understand who we're dealing with, and start preparing our best negotiation team. If we're going to survive this, we need to think like humans, not like the other species that gave up their freedom. The countdown had begun. 30 days to save humanity from becoming just another controlled species in the galaxy. The aliens thought humans would be easy to manage. They were about to learn how wrong they were. President Amy Carter sat at the head of the long table in the secure bunker deep under Geneva. The room was full of world leaders who had flown in from every corner of Earth. Outside, alien ships were scanning every major city on the planet. The aliens wanted to know exactly what humans had built and where they had built it. The situation is simple, said General Murphy as he stood at the front of the room. We have 26 days left to decide. Our military experts have run the numbers. If we fight them with normal weapons, we lose. Their shields can stop our missiles. Their lasers can cut through our best armor. The president of China raised his hand. What about nuclear weapons? Surely they cannot stop everything. General Murphy shook his head. Their ships can destroy nuclear missiles before they get close. Even if we hit them, their technology is thousands of years ahead of ours. It would be like throwing stones at a tank. President Carter looked around the room at the worried faces. So our choices are to give up our freedom or die trying to keep it. Dr. Ben Rodriguez stood up from his seat near the back. He was carrying a black briefcase that most people in the room had never seen before. Actually, we have a third choice, but you're not going to like it. Everyone turned to look at the quiet scientist. Ben walked to the front of the room and set his briefcase on the table. For the past 5 years, I've been running a secret project called Dark Star. The government gave me unlimited money to develop new types of weapons. What kind of weapons? Asked the president of Russia. Ben opened his briefcase and pulled out a small device that looked like a metal cube. Psychological weapons. Weapons that attack the mind instead of the body. The room fell silent. President Carter leaned forward. Explain. Humans are the only species in the galaxy that still fights wars. Every other species gave up violence thousands of years ago. They don't understand fear, paranoia, or strategic thinking. They've forgotten how to handle stress and conflict. Ben held up the small cube. This device can broadcast specific sound, frequencies, and electromagnetic patterns that create anxiety and confusion in alien brains. It makes them feel like they're being hunted, even when they're safe. Colonel Jack Price, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, suddenly became interested. He was a former special operations soldier who had fought in conflicts around the world. You're talking about psychological warfare, making the enemy defeat themselves. Exactly, Ben said. The aliens expect us to build bigger guns and stronger shields. They're not prepared for an attack on their minds. President Carter looked skeptical. How do we know this will work? Because we've tested it, Ben replied. 3 months ago, an alien scout ship came near Jupiter. We used one of our prototype devices on it. The crew abandoned the ship and fled back to their homeworld. They reported that the Jupiter system was haunted by demons. Colonel Price stood up and walked to the front of the room. I've read the Dark Star files. Dr. Rodriguez has created something that no other species in the galaxy can understand or defend against, the capacity for warfare itself. But how do we deliver these weapons? Asked the president of Japan. Their ships are watching everything we do? Ben smiled for the first time in days. We don't need to deliver them, they're already in place. The room erupted in surprised voices. President Carter held up her hand for silence. What do you mean? For 2 years, we've been launching what appeared to be routine asteroid mining operations. Every piece of space junk, every small asteroid, every piece of debris floating in our solar system could be hiding a dark star device. The aliens see exactly what they expect to see, a primitive species mining rocks. Colonel Price pulled up a star map on the main screen. The beauty of this plan is that the aliens are helping us. Every time they scan our system, they're mapping out the perfect positions for our weapons. They're telling us exactly where to hit them. Dr. Rodriguez opened another folder. There's more. We've been studying their communications for weeks. These species haven't experienced real stress in millennia. When humans feel pressure, we get focused and dangerous. When they feel pressure, they break down. You're saying we can make them go crazy? Asked President Carter. I'm saying we can make them remember what it feels like to be prey instead of predators. Humans never forgot that feeling. It's why we survived when bigger, stronger animals wanted to eat us. It's why we became the dominant species on Earth. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, a young tactical officer from the Space Force, raised her hand. What if we take this one step further? What if we invite them to scan us even more? Everyone looked at the young woman. She stood up nervously. The aliens think they understand us because they're watching our military bases and weapon factories. But what if we show them exactly what they want to see? Make them think we're building conventional defenses while we prepare something they cannot comprehend. Colonel Price nodded slowly. Deception warfare. Let them think they know what we're doing while we do something completely different. President Carter looked around the room. So instead of hiding from their scans, we put on a show. Make them think we're panicking and building desperate defenses, while we're actually preparing to drive them insane, Ben added. The president of France spoke up. This is a huge risk. If this psychological warfare doesn't work, they will destroy Earth completely. If we surrender, they'll destroy our freedom completely. Colonel Price replied. At least this way we die as free humans instead of living as alien slaves. President Carter stood up and walked to the window. Even deep underground, she could feel the weight of the alien ships above them. How long do we have to prepare? The weapons are ready now, Ben said. We just need to position the final devices and wait for their invasion fleet to arrive. And you really think this will work? Colonel Price and Dr. Rodriguez looked at each other. Ma'am, humans have been winning fights against bigger, stronger enemies for thousands of years. We don't win because we're tougher. We win because we're smarter, meaner, and more willing to do whatever it takes. President Carter turned back to face the room. Then we're going to show these aliens what human warfare really looks like. Not bigger guns or stronger armor, but the one thing they've forgotten how to handle. She paused and looked at each world. Leader. Fear. The meeting ended with a unanimous vote. Earth would not surrender. Instead, they would teach the galaxy's most peaceful species what humans had never forgotten. That the most dangerous battles are fought in the mind, not in space. Fleet Admiral Nexfor stood on the bridge of his massive ship, the Eternal Peace. He looked out at the 847 ships that made up the largest military force the Galactic Council had ever assembled. Each ship represented one of the 12 member species, and together they carried enough firepower to destroy 100 worlds. Admiral, we are approaching the human solar system, reported his communications officer. All ships are in perfect formation. Nexfor nodded with satisfaction. In his 300 years of service, he had never seen a species resist the Council's authority. The humans would take one look at his fleet and surrender immediately. It was always the same pattern with primitive species. Open a channel to the human homeworld, he commanded. On Earth, Captain Lisa Brooks sat in the emergency command center watching the alien fleet approach. The ships were beautiful and terrifying, stretching across space like a metal constellation. She had practiced this moment dozens of times, but her heart still raced as she prepared to make humanity's final response. This is Fleet Admiral Nexfor of the Galactic Council. Your time has expired. Surrender immediately or face complete annihilation. Lisa took a deep breath and pressed the transmit button. This is Captain Lisa Brooks representing the people of Earth. We accept your terms. We surrender unconditionally and request mercy for our civilian populations. The words tasted bitter in her mouth, but they were exactly what the aliens expected to hear. In the control room behind her, Colonel Jack Price gave her a thumbs up. The performance had to be perfect. Your wisdom will be rewarded with quick integration into Council society, Admiral Nexivore replied. Prepare to receive our administrative teams. Any resistance will result in immediate orbital bombardment. As the alien fleet moved into position around Earth, Dr. Ben Rodriguez sat in a hidden bunker monitoring every ship. His fingers hovered over a control panel that looked like something from a science fiction movie. Red lights blinked quietly as his psychological warfare devices came online throughout the solar system. Phase 1 is ready, he reported to Colonel Price through his headset. Execute Phase 1, came the reply. Ben pressed the first series of buttons. Across the solar system, hundreds of hidden devices began broadcasting signals that human minds could not detect. The frequencies were designed specifically for alien brain patterns based on months of studying captured transmissions. On the Eternal Peace, communications officer Zektar suddenly felt uncomfortable. His workstation seemed to be making a strange humming sound that made his scales itch. The temperature felt wrong, though the environmental controls showed normal readings. Admiral, I'm detecting minor technical anomalies throughout the fleet, he reported. Nothing serious, but multiple ships are reporting small equipment malfunctions. Admiral Nexivore was not concerned. Long deployments always cause stress on ship systems. Have all vessels run diagnostic checks. What the Admiral did not understand was that the problems were not with the equipment. The problems were with the minds of his crews. For the first time in thousands of years, alien brains were experiencing something their species had forgotten: the feeling of being hunted. Captain Dorwin of the Council ship Harmony was the first to notice something seriously wrong. His crew had been complaining about nightmares for the past 2 days. Equipment that worked perfectly was somehow making them nervous. The ship felt different, though nothing had actually changed. Medical officer, report to the bridge, he commanded. Dr. Velnara arrived within minutes, looking tired and worried. Captain, I've examined 17 crew members in the past day. They all report the same symptoms: anxiety, paranoia, and difficulty sleeping. I cannot find any medical cause. Captain Dorwin felt a chill run down his spine. Could this be some kind of human biological weapon? I don't know. But whatever it is, it's affecting the entire fleet. I've been in contact with medical officers on other ships. They're all reporting similar cases. Back on Earth, Colonel Price monitored the alien communications with growing satisfaction. The psychological warfare was working exactly as planned. Species that had never experienced the stress of combat were cracking under pressure that human soldiers would consider mild. Phase 2. Activate, he ordered. Dr. Rodriguez pressed another series of buttons. The intensity of the broadcasts increased slightly. Now the alien minds were experiencing something even more foreign: the constant awareness that death could come at any moment. Lieutenant Sarah Kim watched the alien fleet formations on her tactical display. Colonel, look at this, they're starting to break formation. Ships are moving away from each other. Colonel Price smiled grimly. They're getting paranoid. They don't trust their own allies anymore. On the heavy cruiser Silent Dawn, Captain Rex Mole was having the worst week of his 300-year career. Half his crew was reporting to medical with stress-related symptoms. The other half were jumping at shadows and seeing threats that did not exist. Sir, the vessel Tranquil Waters has moved out of formation again, his navigator reported nervously. They claim they detected suspicious activity from the ship beside them. Captain Rexmole rubbed his temples, feeling a headache that would not go away. Hail Captain Mordex. Ask him why he keeps changing position. The response came back immediately.
Captain Rexmole, your ship has been scanning us with unusual frequencies. We are taking defensive precautions.
We are not scanning anyone, Rexmole replied with growing frustration. Check your sensors again. Our sensors are fine. It is your intentions we question. Colonel Price laughed as he listened to the alien communications. They're turning on each other. Species that have been allies for millennia are starting to suspect betrayal. Dr. Rodriguez looked at his control panel. Should I activate Phase 3? Not yet. Let them simmer a little longer. I want their paranoia to reach critical levels before we show them what real psychological warfare looks like. Admiral Nexivore was beginning to realize that something was seriously wrong. 60% of his fleet commanders were reporting crew problems. Ship captains were accusing each other of suspicious behavior. Medical officers were overwhelmed with cases they could not explain or treat. How can an entire fleet develop the same mysterious illness at the same time? He demanded from his chief medical officer. Admiral, I believe we are under attack, Dr. Kexpala replied quietly. But not with any weapon we understand. This feels like we are being hunted. The word sent a shiver through the bridge crew. Being hunted was a concept that existed only in their ancient history books. No species in the Council had experienced predation for thousands of years. Hunted by what? Admiral Nexivore asked. Dr. Kexpala looked around nervously before answering. By something that still remembers how to be a predator. On Earth, Colonel Price prepared to unleash the full power of human psychological warfare. The aliens were about to learn what 3 million years of evolution as hunters had taught humanity. Dr. Rodriguez, activate all remaining phases. Show them what fear really means. Admiral Nexivore had not slept in 3 days. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt like something was watching him from the darkness. His perfect military formation was falling apart as ship captains moved their vessels away from each other, convinced that their longtime allies were planning attacks. Admiral, we have another problem, his communications officer reported with a shaking voice. Captain Mordex of the Tranquil Waters has locked weapons on the vessel next to him. He claims they are preparing to fire on his ship. Nexivore rushed to his command chair and opened a channel to Captain Mordex. Captain, explain your actions immediately. The reply came back filled with panic. Admiral, the Silent Dawn has been tracking us with their targeting systems for hours. I can feel their weapons pointing at my ship. They are going to destroy us. Captain Rexmole, respond to these accusations, Nexivore ordered. Admiral, we have not activated any weapon systems, came the confused reply from the Silent Dawn. Our targeting computers are completely offline. We could not lock onto anything if we tried. But Captain Mordex was not listening to reason anymore. 3 days of psychological pressure had pushed his mind beyond rational thought. They are lying. I can sense their hostile intentions. I must defend my crew. Admiral Nexivore watched in horror as the Tranquil Waters opened fire on the Silent Dawn. Energy beams that had never been used in warfare cut through the darkness of space. The Silent Dawn's shields flared and died under the unexpected attack. All ships, cease fire immediately, Nexivore screamed into his communicator, but it was too late. The Silent Dawn returned fire in self-defense, and within minutes 6 more ships had joined the battle, each captain convinced that the others were trying to kill them. On Earth, Colonel Price watched the alien fleet destroy itself on his tactical display. Phase 4 is working perfectly. They're doing our job for us. Dr. Rodriguez monitored the alien communications with amazement. Listen to this, Colonel. They're reporting that human ghosts are boarding their ships. Some captains claim they can hear human laughter in their corridors. The psychological pressure has made them completely paranoid, Lieutenant Sarah Kim observed. They're seeing threats that don't exist and missing the real threat completely. Colonel Price nodded with grim satisfaction. That's the difference between a species that forgot how to fight and a species that never stopped preparing for war. We understand that the most dangerous enemy is often the one inside your own head. Back in space, the situation was getting worse by the hour. Admiral Nexivore had lost 37 ships to friendly fire incidents. His crew commanders were reporting mass desertions as alien soldiers refused to stay at their posts. The mighty Galactic Council fleet was defeating itself without humans firing a single shot. Admiral, I am receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council, his communications officer reported. They are demanding an immediate status report. Nexivore straightened his uniform and tried to look professional, though his hands were shaking. The holographic image of Supreme Counselor Vaxthul appeared before him, looking calm and confident. Admiral Nexvor, report on your progress with the human situation. Supreme Counselor, we have encountered unexpected resistance. The humans appear to possess weapons that we do not understand. Vaxthul's expression darkened. Impossible. Our intelligence reports show that human technology is primitive compared to ours. What kind of weapons could they possibly have that threaten our fleet? Admiral Nexvor struggled to find words to explain something that made no sense. They are attacking our minds, Supreme Counselor. Our crews are experiencing mass psychological breakdown. Ships are firing on each other. The humans have somehow weaponized fear itself. Admiral, you are clearly suffering from combat stress. No species can weaponize emotions. Return to base immediately for medical evaluation. Supreme Counselor, with respect, I am not imagining this. Half my fleet is destroyed or disabled. The humans have done something that should be impossible. The hologram flickered with anger. Then you will demonstrate Council superiority by destroying their planet immediately. Use planet-killer weapons if necessary. The human threat must be eliminated completely. The transmission ended, leaving Admiral Nexvor alone with his impossible orders. He was supposed to destroy an entire world because his fleet could not handle whatever the humans were doing to their minds. Weapons officer, prepare the planet-killer missiles, he ordered reluctantly. Target the human homeworld. On Earth, Captain Lisa Brooks received the intercepted communication in the command bunker. Colonel Price, they're preparing to destroy the planet. The psychological warfare worked, but now they're going for complete genocide. Colonel Price had been expecting this moment. Dr. Rodriguez, activate the final phase of Dark Star. It's time to show them what human warfare really looks like. Dr. Rodriguez's hands moved across his control panel like a pianist playing a deadly symphony. Final phase activated, broadcasting at maximum power on all frequencies. Lieutenant Sarah. Kim watched her screens as every hidden device throughout the solar system came online at once. Colonel, the power output is incredible. We're broadcasting psychological warfare signals strong enough to affect every alien mind in the fleet simultaneously. What happened next was something the Galactic Council had never seen in 3,000 years of peaceful rule. The concentrated essence of human military thinking, refined through millions of years of evolution as predators, struck the alien fleet like a mental tsunami. Captain Rexmole felt it first. Every instinct for survival that his species had forgotten suddenly came flooding back. 3,000 years of civilized behavior vanished in an instant, replaced by the raw panic of prey animals surrounded by hunters. They're everywhere, he screamed into his communicator. The humans are on every ship. They're in the walls, in the shadows, in our minds. We have to run. We have to run now. Across the fleet, similar scenes were playing out on every vessel. Alien commanders who had never experienced true fear were suddenly overwhelmed by terror so pure and primal that their civilized minds could not process it. Admiral Nexvor felt his sanity slipping away as waves of predatory intent washed over his consciousness. For the first time in his species' history, he understood what it meant to be hunted by something smarter, more dangerous, and infinitely more ruthless than himself. Retreat, he whispered into his communicator. Then louder. All ships, retreat, immediately. Full speed back to Council space. But many of his ships were already fleeing. Captains had abandoned their posts, crews had mutinied, and entire vessels were flying in random directions as their commanders lost the ability to think rationally. The most powerful military force in galactic history was running away from a planet they had never even attacked, defeated by an enemy that had never fired a shot. 3 weeks after the alien fleet ran away from Earth, the surviving ships limped back to the Galactic Council's capital world. Only 312 ships out of the original 847 made it home. The rest had been destroyed by their own crews or abandoned in deep space by commanders who could no longer function. Admiral Nexvor stood before the Supreme Council, his once proud uniform wrinkled and stained. His hands still shook when he tried to speak. The 12 most powerful beings in the galaxy stared at him with disbelief and horror. Explain to us again how a primitive species defeated the largest military force in galactic history, Supreme Counselor Vaxthul demanded. Nexvor took a shaky breath. They turned warfare into a disease. They made us remember what it feels like to be prey. My crews experienced emotions that our species eliminated thousands of years ago. Fear, paranoia, the certainty that death was hunting us. Emotions cannot destroy starships, Counselor Krendat of the Mining Guild protested. These emotions can, Nexivore replied. When you have forgotten how to handle fear, it becomes more dangerous than any weapon. The humans never forgot. They carry the capacity for warfare in their minds like we carry tools. Supreme Counselor Vaxthul stood up from his crystal throne. Then we will assemble a larger fleet. We will recruit ships from every world in Council space. No, Nexivore said quietly. Any fleet you send will suffer the same fate. The humans have weaponized something that cannot be defended against. They have turned the act of fighting itself into their greatest weapon. Back on Earth, President Amy Carter stood in the White House Rose Garden, looking up at the stars. The alien invasion had failed, but she knew this was only the beginning. Earth had shown the galaxy something that terrified every peaceful species. That war was not just about technology, but about the willingness to use it. Captain Lisa Brooks approached the president with a folder full of intercepted alien communications. Ma'am, we're receiving messages from dozens of worlds throughout Council space. They want to negotiate. What kind of negotiations? President Carter asked. Protection agreements. They're afraid that other species might try to attack them now, that everyone knows warfare is possible again. They want human military advisors to teach them how to defend themselves. Dr. Ben Rodriguez joined them on the garden path, carrying his ever-present briefcase of psychological warfare devices. It's brilliant, actually. We've created a market for the one thing we're better at than anyone else in the galaxy: strategic thinking. Colonel Jack Price walked up behind them, wearing the new uniform of Earth's first interstellar military commander. The irony is perfect. The galaxy spent thousands of years trying to eliminate warfare. Now they need us to protect them from the very thing they feared. Lieutenant Sarah Kim ran up to the group with urgent news. Ma'am, we're receiving a formal communication from the Galactic Council. They want to negotiate Earth's membership as an equal partner. President Carter smiled for the first time in weeks. Equal partners, not subjects? Equal partners, Sarah confirmed. They're offering us full council membership with no technological restrictions. In exchange, Earth becomes the galaxy's official peacekeeping force. 3 months later, Fleet Admiral Susan Hayes stood on the bridge of humanity's first interstellar warship, the Earth's Promise. The ship was built using salvaged alien technology combined with human military engineering. It was faster than any council vessel and carried weapons that no alien commander wanted to face. Admiral, we're approaching the disputed border between the Zeltharian Empire and the Aquatic Collective, reported her communications officer. Both sides have requested human mediation. Admiral Hayes nodded. Open channels to both fleets. Let them know that Earth is here to maintain peace. The response from both alien commanders was immediate and respectful. No species wanted to experience what the original invasion fleet had endured. The mere presence of human ships was enough to end conflicts that had been building for years. On the Council's capital world, Dr. Ben Rodriguez opened the Terran Military Academy's first class. 50 alien officers from different species sat nervously in the classroom, knowing they were about to learn concepts that their civilizations had spent millennia trying to forget. Welcome to Strategic Thinking 101, Ben announced to his nervous students. Today we will discuss the basic principles of psychological warfare and why understanding your enemy's mind is more important than having superior weapons. A young Zeltharian officer raised his hand. Professor, is it true that humans think about warfare even during peaceful times? Ben smiled. Humans think about warfare constantly. We plan for conflicts that may never happen. We study battles that occurred centuries ago. We train for wars against enemies that don't even exist yet. This is why we're good at it. The alien students looked at each other with a mixture of fear and fascination. They were learning from the only species in the galaxy that had never stopped preparing for the next fight. Back on Earth, Commander Jake Morrison flew patrol missions around the solar system in his upgraded ship. The same man who had made first contact with the aliens now guarded humanity's new position as the galaxy's reluctant peacekeepers. Earth Control, this is Morrison. All quiet out here. No sign of any hostile activity. Copy that, Jake. How does it feel to be patrolling the most feared solar system in the galaxy? Jake looked out at the stars and thought about how much had changed. It feels like we finally found our place in the universe. Turns out the galaxy needed someone who remembered how to fight, so that everyone else could continue to live in peace. President Carter addressed the United Nations for the last time as Earth's leader. Tomorrow she would become humanity's first galactic ambassador, representing Earth's interests across thousands of worlds. The aliens were right to fear human power, she told the assembled delegates. But they learned something important. Sometimes, the most dangerous species is also the most necessary one. We are the galaxy's guardians now, not because we wanted this job, but because we're the only ones who can do it. The age of enforced peace through ignorance is over. The age of maintained peace through strength has begun, and Earth will make sure that every species in the galaxy can sleep safely, knowing that somewhere out there, humans are still awake, still watching, and still ready to fight so that others never have to. The galaxy had learned to fear human power, but they had also learned that sometimes fear was the foundation of lasting peace.